So which class and spec should you focus on and make your main, perhaps going into the War Within? We are not talking about Pandaria Remix, my friends. We are talking about this set of different hero specs and different other things in this particular video. No, we are not going to go through each individual spec here. You can read about them on Wowhead and they'll explain it better than I will, but I will share my humble subjective opinion as an altoholic with all classes, all specs available to me, of what I'll be focusing on and why. If you're anything like me, and perhaps even a little bit more kind of limited in terms of the playtime, and you would like to make it the most bang for your buck, aka the time investment, then perhaps this video is for you. I very much hope so. That's why I put these videos together. So please give it a like so that more people can see it if you think it's a good kind of decision-making guide. It's a decision-making guide as opposed to me thinking that I know better for you, what's better for you. Perhaps you'll disagree with me. Tell me in the comments down below. Pick a class and set of specs, the ones that are giving you the most versatility in the game going forward. Duh, it's pretty obvious, but what do I mean by that? I mean that primarily focus on something that can tank. That is my humble opinion. I'll explain why as well. So with that in mind, you want a tank that ideally can DPS, well, they all can DPS to an extent, and can heal. That limits that choice, that massive choice that we seem to have here. It limits the realistic choices quite drastically. It limits it to Druid class, to Monk class, and to Paladin class. This is not to say that others are bad. Please don't come at me with that, because we will just waste each other's time. I'm not saying it. I love some other classes. I love, say, Warlocks. I absolutely love Warriors, and I'm even going to remove myself for a second. Definitely the Warrior is here with the Colossus Slayer and Mountain Thane there. I absolutely have my eyes on the Warrior as well. And Warrior is going to be an honorable mention here. But, spoiler alert, Warrior cannot heal others. They can heal themselves very nicely, but they cannot heal others. Okay, why tank again? Before we even continue going through other classes and other specs, tanks are obviously the most in-demand role. The healers would argue with that, and healers would say, no, in the world of raiding, LFI and stuff, we are more in demand because there are more spots to start with for healers, and they would be right. Which is why I'm saying that you need to pick one of these three classes that can heal if one sunny day you'd like to choose to switch to it. But tanks are also absolutely unkillable machines in leveling. The War Within, you will level at your own speed. You don't have to rush to the top. You can take your time. I'll be taking my time, that's for sure. But nothing can kill you. And in my humble opinion, I leveled a metric ton of characters. I'm embarrassed to say how many I've leveled, even outside of Pandaria Remix, and you saw it on my screen many times if you've been following me. But I think that the process of leveling, when you are not worried about how many mobs you have pulled, especially in these new narrow bar palaces and all this kind of stuff that's coming our way, all these new zones of the War Within, we don't know how hard these mobs are going to be hitting us. We can only assume that they're going to be hitting us pretty, pretty full on. So I would prefer to be really safe on the, like, I don't want to dance around the mobs, around each mob. I just don't. And that's why we are not considering Pandaria Remix experience right now, because that would be skewing everyone's perception. Nothing is killable in Pandaria Remix. You can play anything you want, okay? So that's why tanks. Why Druid? Well, Druid is, in my humble opinion, the easiest tank to run. Maybe not the easiest one to play completely, perfectly, optimally, but for a lazy, casual afternoon of playing World of Warcraft the way I play, spamming Thresh, spamming Swipe, and just mangling everything and looking good in the process, who would say no to that? That's fantastic. Druid also is not dependent on the gear. Sometimes we want the gear to show. We want the big shoulders, we want the plate. I get it, I'm the same. But sometimes we don't. Sometimes whatever you pick up during leveling, you look ugly as hell, but you still want to look good when you're tanking, when you are sort of pleasing yourself, I suppose, visually when you look on the screen, don't you? Well, I absolutely love this werebear form, for example, which is why it's a benefit to some. So it's a very easy tank to play, and I think that that is why Druid is in no particular order, but it's in my top 3. Yep, that's Druid. So Druid also, in my humble opinion, is one of the better healers and has 2 DPS specs. Come on, mate, you cannot go any wrong. 4 specs, the only class in World of Warcraft right now in 2024 that has 4 specs available to you potentially. We're talking about tanking primarily, but imagine the versatility and the reuse of that character that you can get. You know, like, it should be a no-brainer. You have to have a Druid in your collection, and I would dare say that Druid is very, very much at the top, one of the very, very top ones, competing with Paladin, perhaps, for me, personally. That's the one that you should focus on. That's what I think you should be doing, okay? Second, Paladin, since we're talking about Paladin, exactly the same thing. Very easy tank to play, slightly, maybe slightly, marginally, a little bit more involved than Druid in the process of tanking, how you tank. However, very, very brain dead, super high performing DPS in the hands of even the most unexperienced people. Absolutely just retribution, absolutely smashes absolutely everything, even in my very, very unskilled hands as a DPS. Somehow, after all these years, I'm a rather unskilled, rather horrible DPS, I would dare say, but I'm a very, very good tank. So Paladin is fantastic. DPS, retribution is beautiful. Tanking, throwing the shield that bounces around everyone, silences everyone, throwing consecration, tanking AoE style, classic AoE style, being invulnerable when you want to, being able to heal even in tanking spec really, really wonderfully off heal. There is just nothing like a Paladin. Nothing like a Paladin. And out of these three that I said, Druid, Paladin, and Monk, I'd say that unless you like healing over time effects, but if you prefer direct healing, more classic kind of method of healing, I'd say Paladin is also a rather, rather solid healer, in my humble opinion. So Paladin, fantastic choice. I don't need to sell it any further. I'm a massive Paladin fan. I already have a large amount of casual friendly guides on Paladin tanking and DPS, I think, as well on my channel, and there are more coming. Now on to Monk. Monk is the most complex tank. But it is also, especially if you have been playing Druid and you have been playing Paladin in this case for a long time, then switching to Monk is sort of a bit of a lets your mind stretch a little bit, lets you like feel tiny bit more challenged in terms of, hey, it's a bit more of a complex stagger mechanic for me here. It's a bit of more buttons for me to look at and purify the stagger and do some other things to upkeep and to, you know, just satisfy yourself with a little bit more challenge. Some of us want it, you know. I'd say Monk is probably the most complex, convoluted, and least pleasant healers for me personally. So I might as well never heal on a Monk. I listed it here simply to you in the top 3 because it is capable of healing if one sunny day you choose to do it. But I would say that to me, Monk has 2 specs. It's DPS and it's tanking. Tanking is enjoyable in its complexity, and DPS is enjoyable because it's a second melee DPS in the game that is very, very easy to be good at. Very, very easy to be rudimentary in terms of how you're using the cooldowns and what abilities you're pressing, following the most basic casual friendly guide such as mine, and being okay with it. So that also stands for something. It's a big, big, big plus, especially for casuals who are not number crunchers, who are not specialists. But healing you can do, which is why Monk is at the top, but I would not heal on a Monk. And since we're talking about this, we came to the tail end of this, and an honorable mention, like I said already, to the Warrior over here. So Warrior is the most classic, the most unkillable tank that doesn't survive by healing itself. It survives by not taking damage. That's how it survives, in case you're relatively new to the Warrior. It's a steel wall that simply does not let the damage in. Yes, that is not to say that Warriors do not heal themselves. Of course they do heal, and heal a lot, by the way. However, that's not necessarily their biggest selling point. Their biggest selling point is simply that you smash everything, dishing out a metric ton of damage while not taking much damage at all whatsoever. I absolutely love ferocity, speed of the Warrior. Just Warrior is wonderful, and it belongs in the top 3. And maybe it should displace Monk, but like I said to you, Monk is there only because it can do all 3 jobs, and Warrior can only do 2. And that's it. I didn't plan to make this video too long, my friends. I just wanted to connect with you a little bit, and as now the pre-patch of the War Within is basically upon us, and as the War Within itself is only about, what, a month away, a month and a half away or something, which is wonderful. It's a wonderful time to play World of Warcraft. remix is still happening. You can level whatever you want, and you probably did already. I did. But what do you take further into the pre-patch, especially considering that all of your numerous alts that you have leveled in Pandaria Remix are not going to be unlocked and exposed to the real world of World of Warcraft, the retail version, until Remix is over, and there is still a hefty amount of days left. So you may need to look in the in the retail WoW, in the WoW proper, unless you're just willing to wait before literally the War Within drops, and then you will pick up one of these alts from Pandaria Remix to take further. All I'm saying to you is that somehow, if by any chance you have not rolled something that's capable of tanking, doing good for others, aka leading the groups along, doing good by yourself, by being unkillable in the real game, not in the fake game of Pandaria Remix, because as fun as it was, don't forget that you're unkillable priest that spams Holy Nova, you're unkillable something else mage that just runs around and nothing can kill it. All of that will come to an end, and it will be a very rude awakening for a lot of you who have been sort of living in that skewed reality of thinking that you're a god of Pandaria Remix, but then it will all come crashing down, and you cannot perform as well or be in as much demand in the raids and everywhere else as one of these classes I'm talking to you about today. Hopefully all of this was useful. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you very much for being with me. If you're here on the roughly 12th minute of this video and still watching, wow, you're special. You really are special. Not many of you are there. I look at the stats on YouTube. I wish there were more of you, and I wish our club genuinely grows like this and like-minded individuals, casuals, hang out together. That's what this channel has been about all these years. If you're not subscribed yet, with that in mind, that's my pitch to you. Subscribe now. And I'll talk to you next time about something else that were within Mist of Pandaria, maybe related next week. Goodbye for now.